Have you been struggling to make good teams on Dokkan and keep finding yourself losing in difficult events? Well, look no further, you have come to the right place. Today I'm going to be showing you 5 essential steps in order to build better teams in Dokkan and in turn get better win rates, better success, right? Just make the game easier for you. What I like to tend to do is update this guide every 6 months or so, maybe once or twice a year when there's going to be an influx of new players. I'm sure as most of you know, when I'm uploading this, the 10th anniversary, excuse me, we're getting pretty far along at this point, is only about 12 days away or so. So I think it would be a good time because there's going to be a lot of players coming in, and now you will be able to build better teams with your anniversary characters when that time comes. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Alrighty, so the first step in doing all of this is we need to establish our 5 ground rules, or the 5 essential steps to building our teams in Dokkan. Now, step number 1, we want to figure out what type of team we want to make. Is this going to be a mono category team? Is this going to be a double leader skill team, right? How do we want to make this? Is it going to be an extreme led team, a super class led team? If you don't understand all these terms, you should probably watch my beginner's guide that is on the channel, and things will make a lot more sense. But with that being said, we need to identify the type of team that we want to use. And then once we've done that, we can move on to step 2, which is find the best leader for the sort of team that we are working with. Sometimes we have characters that have pure 200% leader skills, other times we do not. Sometimes leader skills are a little bit more complex. They have 2 categories, 3 categories, and then that's going to give us more versatility in terms of the teams that we want to use. The third step in making a good Dokkan team is figuring out what your rotations are going to be. I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about rotations a lot if you've watched these videos before. These are going to be the characters that are on every other turn and are going to stay as a pair together, right? That is kind of the short-term term that we use for these characters, for lack of a better word, right? A pairing here is going to be like, if you're going to run a Broly unit, you probably want to run him next to another Broly character that doesn't share the same name, so they get their links. That would be what is known as a rotation. We'll get a little bit into that as we're building the team, but that is going to be the third step. The fourth step that we are going to need to look at in order to build a Dokkan team is identify our floaters. Who are we going to be putting on the team that is going to help with support, or is going to hold it down defensively, provide something for the team in terms of value in order to kind of take it to the next level, right? Good floaters are the keys to teams being safe. That is why teams like the Superheroes team is so good, or the Movie Bosses team, because not only are the rotations and main damage dealing units of this team going to work very well, we also have very, very good floaters, so that is going to be helpful as well. So last but not least, after that, the 5th and honestly the most important step in all of this is consider the event that you are playing. Sometimes a character that is going to be really, really good in one event will not be not so good in another event. For an example, a character like Ultra Instinct Goku. An Ultra Instinct Goku would probably not that good in terms of being like, if he can't dodge, he's probably not going to be that good. Red Zone Broly disables dodges. So unless you're running Tech Ultra Instinct Goku that has a dodge nullifying domain, then you're probably not going to want to run dodge based characters in an event that disables dodge. So those are the 5 important steps to building a team. Now let's execute those in practice and actually build a few teams so we kind of understand what we're talking about here. Alrighty, so we are now over here on the unit selection screen. I'm using the global box. It does not have every character in the game, but it will have enough for me to get my point across. The first team that I want to make, let's do a Movie Bosses team. So I identified the type of team I want to make. That is step 1. I want to make a Movie Bosses team. Now, what we need to do is find the best leader. Now, one tool that you could potentially use is DokkanInfo.com, and then you want to go over to the card section, hit categories, and then find Movie Bosses, and there it will show you all of the leaders. But what we can also do is just filter it here by Movie Bosses, and then this will give us the options here in terms of Movie Bosses, right? So we go right here. Now we're looking at our Movie Bosses. I don't have a ton of characters on this global. The account's just not like fully done right now, but I can still illustrate what I'm trying to point out. So what we want to do is make a Movie Bosses team. Like I said, the first thing here is if we have a character that's just a pure 200% leader, more often than not, this is just going to be your safe bet for running 2 of these characters. In the case of the Movie Bosses team, this Tech Broly right here that I'm selecting is going to be the Movie Bosses category 3 and 200% 2 stats. So this is what we would deem to be a good leader. So we are going to set him in the first slot. If you guys do not know, the first slot is the leader. So he is always the order for the rest of the characters does not matter, but the first one does, because that's the leader slot. So please keep that in mind or take note of it now, that you're always going to want to make sure the leader goes in slot 1. Now, what we need to do is figure out our rotations, right? We figured out the team, we identified the best leader. Now what we want to do is find a character to pair with our friend Broly, or with our Broly, and then more than likely a friend Broly. This isn't always going to be the case. Sometimes you can just have your rotations on the team, but for the sake of this video, we're going to be running 2 separate rotations with Broly characters, and it's going to work just fine. So for the first rotation, what we are going to look at is this AGL Super Saiyan Broly right here that transforms into full power Super Saiyan Broly. This is going to be a good rotation because these characters share a lot of links, because this Broly, after the first turn, or you can even do it on the first turn, you could transform him into the legendary Super Saiyan Broly, and these two offensively and defensively are going to work very well with each other. Tech Broly is the slot 1 character of this rotation, and then AGL Broly is going to be a very good slot 2 character. So that is something that we have to keep in mind. Now, what we want to do is make a second rotation. So for this instance, we could do a lot of different things with this one, right? What we potentially could do is do one that is centered around big bad bosses, which is a link that is very valuable. If I look at a character right here, he's not done with link levels, by the way. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But this Cell Max right here, if we go to big bad bosses, when we get to level 10, he just has passive attack and defense plus 25%. So what do we want to do? We want to find another movie boss character that shares this link. In this case, the best option is going to be this Janemba right here. So now what we could do is put this Cell Max next to this Janemba for the sake of making things visually appealing, even though it doesn't matter. I could do this, it wouldn't make a difference, right? Or, well, I kind of messed that one up, but like we kind of do this, it doesn't matter. But just for the sake of making things clear, these are going to be our rotations for this team in specific. So now what we do is we have our pairings. So now we have our Broly pairing, and then we have our Janemba pair, or our Big Bad Bosses pairing with Janemba and Cell Max. So this works out very well. Now we need to identify 2 floating characters who are going to work very well with this team and provide things. I think that this legendary Super Saiyan Broly is a good example because he's very versatile. He can go in basically any slot that you need him to. In slot 1 because he has a revive if he takes a bad super, and then is also going to be able to gain a lot of defense from doing his super and stuff like that, and just has other things that are good for the team. Now, looking at the next floater that we want to have on the team, we could potentially go a support route with the character like this Broly right here. That's super easy. A Broly provides support, or we could go with a more defensive anchor type of setup with a character like Beerus. Now with Beerus, this is also helping out Cell Max, or not Cell Max, excuse me. This is helping out Cell Max because like everybody's fitting on what he needs. But with this Beerus, you are fitting everything that you need for the team because now you have that defensive anchor that could potentially go in a floating spot or move up if he needs to. Let's say a boss locks or something like that. That could potentially be a big deal. So now we've done all 4 of the core 5 steps. Let's go ahead and move into step 5, which is make sure you are considering the event that you are going in, and let's go ahead and look at that now. Okay, so what we potentially can do here is just run in through these stages. I'm not actually going to play anything in the game in this case, just because I feel like that would make the video too long. But what I want to look at specifically is the information on the stage, so that way we know this is a good way for like a litmus test to see, is this team going to be good for this event? Now, the Movie Bosses team, thankfully, is one of the best teams in the game, so there is a more likely than not chance that it is like going to be good for the event. But what we could do is kind of just play pretend and be like, oh, okay, here could be a problem. So let's look at versus Trunks and Goten, the last stage of this Supreme Magnificent Battle Movie Edition. Now, what we want to do is press the stage details, and now we can see typings, right? Now, when you're building a team or when you're doing these events, more often than not, the last phase is going to be the hardest. So that is going to be one thing you want to consider. Again, this is more of kind of for a beginner guide type of thing, but for the team building aspect of this, we want to specifically look at the typings, right? So if we go into here, we know that we are going to have an HGL and an int enemy there in that last spot. So if we go over to the custom team that we built, which is right here, we see that we only have 1 STR character on the team. So that type disadvantage can probably be masked up pretty well with Cell Max. And then he will be type neutral against the other character. And then we have some good type advantage characters, or a good type advantage character, excuse me, with this version of Janemba right here. Now, where things could get a little bit problematic, as you can see if I refresh right here, it is going to give us an int character, but what I would do personally, if you want to run it this way, you could bring another Broly. You could see we have a little bit of an issue because we have 3 tech characters. So you could be like, oh no, if we go back to the stage details, we go to the enemy info, you could be like, oh no, this Krillin is int, so we have to be careful. But the trade-off is also, oh hey, Goten and Trunks, it says versus Goten and Trunks, they're probably the more important enemy. We have the type advantage over that character. So in this case, you're going to see that this team build works pretty well. So that is one thing to consider, or multiple things to consider. If we just go to another example, and we can kind of finish it off here, so hopefully everything has made sense so far, what we can do is go over here, let's go to Super Saiyan 2 Gohan Youth. And then we go over here, we press stage details, we go to enemy info, and you can see the last phase is tech. You can see this team, not that team, this team right here, and we'll just keep it like this, that's fine. What we maybe want to do is bring that second Int Broly in order to do more damage in that last phase, right? Where we could have 2 type advantage characters instead of just one being the one on my team, and there's also going to be one with dupes here being the friend one. So that is sort of all of the core principles for building a team, right? Sometimes it is just a band-aid that you have to rip off, that you're going to be in situations where you have type disadvantage, even with good teams, right? There's no such thing, as a team that's always going to have type advantage in every single fight. Units like that just don't exist, right? Characters can be effective against all types, but that doesn't mean that, like, unless they introduce like a new typing, there's always going to be situations where they are technically at type disadvantage. So that is always going to be a problem. There's no such thing as like, I'm going to build this team and there's nothing the game can do, right? There are very good teams in the game, but there's always going to be specific situations where you could get caught in, something could go wrong, you get unlucky here, you get unlucky there. Bosses do all types of different things, so keep that in mind. Sometimes if you're struggling in an event, it might not even be that you're building a bad team, it could just be that you are getting unlucky or you are just bringing the wrong units, right? I don't even know if that necessarily means you're building a bad team, it might just be the best options you have. Maybe you need to use items, maybe you need to use a support memory, all types of factors could go in. But there you guys go. That is going to be my updated team building guide for 2025. Maybe we will do another one come to the around the worldwide download celebration. This year, the global anniversary being at a different time does kind of funk things up a little bit, but we shall see. So I hope you guys found this one informative. If you need help building a team, you can either leave it in the comments or join the Discord in the link below. Very helpful community there, pretty active Dokkan chat. So if you ever need help, you could submit a little forum there, or you could just go into the team building section or the Dokkan general chat in that Discord. So I'd love to see you over there. Pretty active Discord server, and would really appreciate it if you did join. Let's get this community more and more active by the day, and that starts with me, but it would also help me if you help me out as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Don't forget to leave a like if you did, subscribe if you were new, and I'll see you all in the next one.